Morning.
Good morning, good day. Welcome to another episode of the Jenna Michelle Show. Today we have Julie Claire with Joyful Soul Expansion. I'm beyond excited for her to hop in, and I'm going to send her the link right now. So bear with me. This is my enlightenment path of making it all make sense and work here. And if you go to Julie's website, joyfulsoulexpansion.com, you'll see that Julie guides spiritual seekers into the heart of their soul so they can get unstuck from patterns of playing small, living in fear, and being constricted or contracted in their ego. And I have had her in my world shortly after my experience, and she was someone who really met me on the multi-dimensional levels that I needed and has been revolutionary for me. My life hasn't always aligned to be consistently in her space. And every single time that I am, every single time I do meditation with her, my life changes. I have learned so much intimately when it comes to the aspects of how the brain works, how the body works, taking spiritual concepts and turning them into actual scientific, mechanical things. It's not, what's the word, where it's just all woo-woo. She really makes it concrete and factual, and her style of meditation was powerful too, as it really helps you transmit the mechanics and the knowing and the I keep saying the science of it, really grounding it here, helping our brain and bodies understand what it is. She does that at a miraculous, meticulous level, and I like it is quite honestly like going to a college level course on this content, and she has you get into a meditative state so you're able to really receive the information into your body and brain in a way that's just surpasses anything I've ever experienced. And so she's been in my world. I love her so big, and I want the world to know about her. She has offerings of a free call with her, which is actually how I got connected into her space, which that alone was epically valuable. So highly recommend you go and check her out. Links will be down below. And she did just do a sequence on anchoring in as a pillar of light, which is on YouTube. So I'll have that link down below too. Highly recommend you check it out. And really, for those that are in this world of anchoring the light in. So that's what I want to lead us in today. And just one second. Welcome, welcome.
Wait, I have to do the guided. Okay, never mind.
There we go. She's
They wanted me to approve recording.
Yeah, we're here. I'm also clear we're on. Oh, good. Perfect. We're good? No? The choice of starting.
Yeah, we'll get it.
There we are. I hear it. Better? Nope, we're still starting. I'm clear we're in different. Right? I'm clear we're in very different climates, by the way.
Noise girl, the only way I can know if I
can hear you a little bit. I can pause here too. All right, we are live with the sound, and also I just want to acknowledge, I think we are in very different climates. I am.
You think?
Yes, exactly. I need like all the layers here in Washington as it's frozen this morning, and you are Costa Rica?
Yeah, I'm in a bikini. in Costa Rica.
I love that so big. And we've been each other's world, I was saying, I think well over a year now, and just the gift that you are when it comes to navigating the multi-dimensional aspects of being human on this planet, and really acknowledging the ways in which you ground it into reality and the science aspect, the mechanics of it, and really the biomechanics. I love big. And so I'd love to hear a little bit, or have you share for the people kind of how you got started, what drives you, and kind of what had you build what you build in the way that you do, in the way that you do.
Sure. Well, I started off like most of us, as a pissed off teenager trying to work our way through trauma and, all the lovely stuff of being in 3D worlds where wounded people raise wounded children.
Mhm.
And I delved pretty deep into psychedelics as a teenager, so that kind of just cracked open my skull and allowed me to see that there's that, but there's also all this, And from there, I was trying to figure out where I could have the most impact. And I have a really big brain. I'm an Aquarius. I can't help myself. And I figured academia might be the place where I could actually bring in some of this understanding into that boxed in thinking system that, as far as I'm concerned, is supposed to be universal knowledge. So I went really deep in there. 12 years. I did a BA in communications. I did a master's in sociology, and I didn't finish it, but I was halfway through a process of doing a PhD in sociology and anthropology, looking at the emergence of hands-on spirituality, the decline of religion, and the emergence of people just regaining they're like, I'll take care of figuring out my own spirit. Thank you very much, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But at a certain point in that process, I realized that after a while, I just realized I can't really teach what I want to teach here. There's the confines of the mind it's a box, right? So I eventually understood that I had to kind of like get out of there. It took a burnout because I'm stubborn. And with a good burnout, then I ended up discovering alchemy arts. I met a master alchemist, and he trained me, and I had that kind of like academic rigor, of like, we're going to train. So I ended up having a series of really intense apprenticeships with a master alchemist and with an ayahuasca shaman. And like, I just boom, 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 is like one after the other, and raised a kid somewhere in there that was with me this whole time. And yeah, what just became very clear to me, and I call it an evolutionary embodiment journey, is, through my teenagehood, I tapped into very, very expanded mental states through excessive amounts of LSD. And then in my 20s, I went deep into academia and really developed my intellect. So then I had like that intuition and that intellect, like super kind of like, woo, strong and able to kind of play together, which I noticed most people weren't able to do that. But I'd never really taken care of coming back in my body and taking care of the trauma in there. Like I just kind of like, I'm going to go float up there and fuck that, like, so yeah, like after that was like a 15-year period of like really coming back to the body, just, changing the diet, the doing yoga, the deep meditation, plant medicines, like it just one after the other. And the more I came into my traumas and really understood how to hold space for them, I started understanding what's missing for most of us as we do spiritual work. We're trying to do it up there, and we're not coming all the way back in, which is where it needs to be done. So from
Yes.
there,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I will say the same too. I mean, however boxed and religious you want to go, I really and I think this is a path for a lot of people right now going, was this isn't working, kind of wilding out 2020, 2023 in this deconstruction, discovering the spiritual stuff online, not having any grounding or community or framework, what if it's even happening, or even people who are doing, I haven't done it personally, and people who have done certain whatever psychedelics with no support, no community, no framework of what's actually happening, and people getting harmed, actually physically harmed in ways that is dangerous, and something that I'm fairly loud about just because I come from a community that doesn't have the awareness around some of these things. I've just watched people from the community get harmed over and over and over again. And there's really no checks and balances for it too. And it's happening on a global scale. And so I just appreciate the way you bring content in and really grounded it in the body from a scientific aspect, because it's dangerous.
yeah, no, it's like, that's the goal, is we bring the body with us. And to me, there's no such thing as, you don't leave the body behind, and you don't leave the mind behind either. You don't leave anything behind. Like that's the goal, is to be an integrated unit. Like, and that's even what I call my method, multi-dimensional harmonization method. It's like the body, the emotions, the mind, these are the three lower chakras. The heart is the bridge, and the upper chakras are all about more and more unitive thinking. They all need to work together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
one of the
that's,
things, like the plant medicine stuff, like there's no integration.
yeah, yeah, no integration. I hear that too. And really just so much of our world doesn't give space for integration. Even if you don't do the whole wild psychedelic, like even if you just do a counseling session or just like anything where you do tap in and dig into some of the body stuff of traumas that are there, we're so hard on ourselves. It's like there's not that space of integration. And at least for myself, I've been hard charging on healing and led to that full Kundalini rising, which I didn't expect. Like it was just this, like, I have no frame for it. And so where I like to say, thankfully, I had structures to help contain it on my own that gave me the grounding there. Just having that happen in our current culture, at least in Western United States, it's so dangerous and scary for people. And then for me, I'm left with like, it's not dangerous or scary. It is also doesn't fit in what people think. So then you get ostracized because then you're a weirdo and you don't have a frame of reference. And where do you go in a Western world to get resources and talk to someone? That's where you've showed up in such a major way, where there is a normalization of this, there is a grounding in it, and there is the biomechanics of it. And at least for my prior context, it's like to go through this and be like, what's there is being seen as demonic has been just insanely painful, as it's like you get ostracized out of communities and you're like, I need community, I can't do this alone, and now I no longer fit here. And then I don't really fit in the spiritual spaces either, because I need to not be going out into whatever your guys are doing. I have no interest. And so then it has left this middle space of few and far between are able to hold the nuances of that middle space.
Yeah, like it's so important, right? It's like understanding what's happening physically, psychologically, like energetically, and spiritually. And it's like, we don't live in a society where like half of that's not even considered in a society. And if you try to go like in like old lineages, like, like it's not like, let's say like yogic tradition, stuff like that, like they can help you understand the Kundalini stuff, but the methods that they have don't work for us most of the time. Like I don't know any white person that can sit in meditation for an hour and not go insane.
Yeah, 100% that, like, not the need to move energy. No, and really for me, like one of the gifts was music. Like that was one that I used a lot, was almost always listening to music and dancing. That was what was always grounding me. And no one understands the length and this being someone to, or being in that space to need to move that energy. Like it's a full-time job, just moving that energy to stay grounded. And so I never know what's there. It's just this foreign world that's there. And even too, where you said it, I don't know if you have a good articulation from those that are like, what does 3D mean? What does 5D? And actually what's there for me, what I'm really selfishly ambitious about is digging into your understanding of the 12th dimension, as I have some theories and beliefs and would love to hear what's up there. Yes.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. So in my understanding, which is based on deep introspection as well as like, reading, like I've got that academic side, right? So for me, it's like I can read 80 books about something and then I start kind of piecing it together. There are currents of thought that believe that there are 12 dimensions to the universe. I think to not just the universe, but just like 12 dimensions of existence. There's a beautiful graphic out there somewhere, the 12D matrix. I believe there's a little bit more than that, but I think like the higher you go, like the more it starts being hard to talk about dimensions. If you want to go all the way to the multiverse and shit like that, they might tell you that it's unlimited, infinite dimensions. Like, but the understanding of the 12 dimensions, it's like, for example, like first dimension is kind of like rocks. Second dimension is plants, right? Like the third dimension is self-consciousness. Like it's like we're becoming, there's more and more adding, like fourth dimension is like being aware of the spirit, like the energy around the consciousness and the physical content and the organic content and the rock physical mineral content, and so on and so on. It goes up and up. Fifth dimension is not only is there self-awareness, not only is there awareness of spiritual energy, but you started really being able to live from within the heart space, which corresponds to, it's interesting because people don't realize this, but living within the heart space, the 5D, corresponds to being in the heart frequency.
Mm.
So there's a fun thing to understand. There's a difference between densities and dimensions. And that's super interesting
Yes.
because we're in this process of transitioning from third dimension to fifth dimension, because we're already kind of in fourth. Fourth is the being aware of spirit. But once we are fifth dimensional permanent living, we have become fourth density beings. Right now we're third density beings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's a wow. Like that's a whole super, and there's 7 densities. And interestingly enough, it kind of almost corresponds to the densities of the energy system that we have.
So there's a degree of, we will know in the fourth density that we are spirit, is what's
Not
there.
only that, but fourth density is one where the main state of being is one of love and compassion.
Mm,
Yeah. So like the third density being is more about like just self-awareness, which can just be ego world, like you become you emit things and then boom, you get consequences of it. And so, but fourth density isn't the end of the road either. Because like this is really cool to talk about. For fifth density beings, fourth density beings are a little bit naive. So it goes up and up. Like once we're like sixth, seventh density, these are beings that live up in the 12D.
Okay.
Right. So like just to give you a little example of the difference between a fourth density and a fifth density being. A fourth density being is all about love and compassion. Love and compassion, wanting to help others, wanting to intervene. Like a lot of the light beings that are trying to help with the ascension, they're fourth density beings. Fifth density beings live from a state of wisdom. So for someone living from a state of wisdom, looking down at someone trying to help someone, from that perspective, you can see that actually prevents that person from figuring it out themselves. That actually doesn't serve them in the higher perspective of, we're all spiritual beings trying to remember who we are, and we become sovereign beings. So if we're like, help, and we get help, how the fuck are we learning that, oh, I'm a creator being. I don't need things to help me. I need to stand beside them and remember who I am. Right. So for a fifth density being, that's kind of like, high five, So, and then it keeps going up and it gets more and more collective. It becomes more and more of a collective identity. Like a lot of people that channel, like they don't channel a person, they channel an entire collective. Right. So it's like all the wisdom of an entire collective being channeled through one person. So it's super interesting to talk about this, but just to come back to the 12D, like all I can say about that right now is like, as you go up in dimensions, you go in more and more abstract fields, like kind of like sixth dimension might be kind of like astrological currents and understanding how they work. But if you go up to like eighth or ninth dimension, then it's actually the rules of these things. Right. So like it goes up and it becomes more and more abstract because it's hard for us to understand like how, like I've spoken to some energy beings before that have no body. They're just like an orb. That's very hard to understand from a third, fourth, fifth dimension. Like you're a ball and you're talking. Where's your mouth? Yes. Yeah. That's,
it's
I don't
very
know.
fun to just in my own world and knowing that people who do not have concepts past the third dimension consume my content. And there's such a degree of what I wish so much they would get is that after the third dimension, you have you have benevolent love, like you understand the God force that is for you in all ways. And so the ascending out of the lower dimensions, like you have love. Like, yes, there is spiritual danger that I don't know exactly, maybe you can add some context around there because I don't personally understand it. And I haven't ever dabbled in spaces that have been dark forces per se. And like, it's all love, like leaning in, and how so many people are so scared to lean in and so afraid of the woo and the resistance that's there, when it's like us leaning in would have us all collectively have compassion, harmony, and come together, and that drive for myself, that just wanting us to come together.
Yeah. So like the compassion and the harmony and the love and all that stuff, that's fifth dimensional.
Mhm.
Like you have my Ascension Particles course, right? Like I think you've
I
done it.
believe
Like
so. Yeah.
I talk about that in the first presentation. Like it's super important to understand the fourth dimension is the one where spirit is completely aware of itself. It doesn't mean that the beings there are benevolent. You know,
Okay.
grays aren't benevolent,
Okay.
but they're super spiritual. Like
Yeah.
they can read your mind and they can come in and out and they can do all this stuff. So it's like at the fifth dimensional level, all of a sudden that heart-centered living where
Mhm.
it's not even really possible to, you don't want to manipulate anything anymore because you know it's all you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
At the fourth level, it's kind of like, I know it's all me, but so a lot of people are strong spiritually, but they're very much focused on self-interest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that have talked about this recently in the last 10-15 years. The fourth plane, the astral plane,
Okay.
is a space with, there's like a lower astral and a higher astral, and the lower astral is kind of like a lot of the demons and blah 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 and stuff like that. Like they exist in there, and the upper fourth is going more into like archetypal energies and stuff like that. But it's like our goal is to transition into fifth. So
Mhm.
some people that are third, that are still third density in 3D world, they're like their survival system is aware. Like
Mm.
I don't know about opening up to this stuff too fast, and it's almost like it's not a bad thing because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like unless they really like, you have to be living from here. You
Yeah.
have to know how to be in your heart and really
Yeah.
cultivate that, and
Yeah.
then start opening up to spirit. So a
Yeah.
lot of
I
people have
really
it
see
upside
that
down.
newly. I really see that newly, and the drive to create spaces that are able to give spaces to tap into the heart, that give people their sovereignty and is not trying to manipulate, control, and do all that. There's a big, just a lot opened up there. And the infrastructure I just continue to see isn't built to support what we're building, and the purity and clarity of quote unquote content creators having a look at it, for me, is few and far between. Finding people who truly are proof tested, who have done the work, who are committed to this. And that's something I've have very, very few people that I'm connected to. And when I am, I'm like, no, there's a resonance there. Like I can see, and human design of a 6-2, and just trusting the resonance and testing the resonance. I think that's something that my embodiment has been too, testing light workers in my world. And it's like, if you treat me like this, then I'm not going to trust you with other people. And so often I'll show up in a really, I want to say brass or brutal way, is how sometimes people will say it. And it's like, if you can't handle me, then you have no business handling other people. And so that's been a clearing of my own connections, of just people who have been able to get away with stuff for a long time with no accountability, and the wild,
But
wild west of this.
that's the key word, resonance, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like our spiritual bullshit meter needs to be fine-tuned, all of
Yes.
us,
Yes.
because like I'll tell you right now, lower 4D astral beings are more than happy to present themselves as angels and guides and I am Metatron, whatever the fuck that you think you're channeling, and you don't even
Yes.
know what you're working with.
Yeah.
So that strong like pillar of like finding the resonance, and the
Mm-hmm.
resonance is in the heart. The
Mm-hmm.
resonance is not in the brain. The resonance is not, you know what I mean? Like your
Mm-hmm.
body lets you know what the fuck is going on, by like a constriction
Mm-hmm.
or like okay, because our body can't lie. This is the trippy thing. But then one of the reasons that I go so deep into the psychological and like science-based stuff when I give my mentorship programs is that your body is a truth engine. It cannot lie. But your body, the way it works is it's like if you have a low frequency thought, your body will react to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're around someone low frequency, your body will react to it. But if you're reacting to your low frequency thought about someone, how do you know the difference?
Yeah.
Like, is it that person the problem or not? You
Yeah.
don't know. Like, so,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I don't feel good around that person. And meanwhile, all that's going on is your defense structure is getting triggered. So it's like just building that discernment more and more. And it always comes back to like, you just need to learn to live from within the heart space, because there's a lot of room in there. And that's where you feel people's essence. That's where you feel people's intentions. That's where you're able to like tap into your own wisdom and kind of look through your eyes at someone's essence. And there's a lot of, kind of trippy to talk about this, but there's a lot of people out there that are masquerading as healers and whatever, light workers, and they are super fucking corrupt. They're corrupted. And the worst part is that some of them don't even know they are.
That. Yep.
They don't know. As far as they're concerned, they think they're,
Yep. That. Yep. I have a community I was a part of that the leader is that, and people have tried to come at every different angle, trying to bring it there. And there's a whole defense structure that makes it impossible to get in. And in the world of us building communities online and not in person, there's a component of it just as a simple block, and this person doesn't exist anymore. And just that world we've created online. And for me, beginning to see like who's embodied and really discovering people in person is such a night and day different experience of someone can truly portray themselves as one thing online and have not the embodiment. And it's just been eye-opening to experience.
And we feel it. Like you feel someone embodied, people used to travel all the way to India just to be in the field of someone that's awakened, because just that is an incredible experience. It's like an osmosis thing. Your essence is like, oh, I recognize that. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm so clueless about all of that too. Again, just the pure ignorance that I had of like where I was at and what I tapped into and where I'm at now. Like I still have massive ignorance and just making this up and just keep coming back to center of trusting my body, what feels good. And it's been an unfolding that I'm just like, I'm in over my head is what I feel like every single day. And it's also like, there's like the harvest is plenty, the workers are few kind of aspect. Like there's so much to be done. And so I do get into that frantic, desperate, wanting all the things. And I also know that that's not their true. So then I just do the whole mental gymnastics all the time.
And then that's the whole goal of like learning how to like just come back to the body. What's going on in my body right now? Because it's like the mind's like, and the mind it's such a good differentiation to understand. Your ego lives in your mind. The ego lives in the mind, and it tries to hijack the body as much as it can and use it for its own end, to be the one driving the vehicle. And like your soul lives in your heart. Like they don't live in the same place. So it's like you just learn to switch your focal point, because the mind's like trying to find solutions to problems that it created that don't even exist, right? Like it's like I'm gonna loop in myself and self-digest myself until I find a solution to this problem that I invented, and it's not even able to. Well, wait, is it really a problem if I invented it? Like,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, almost all the
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, and that's the other thing, right? We're super powerful beings, so then whatever you're about, you're seeing, and then you're like, oh, that's proof that was right, and oh my God. But it's like coming back into the body. It's like the way to connect to the soul is to come back into the body and go into the heart. And that's not woo-woo. There's nothing complicated about it. It's just you have resistance from your mind, because your mind has a whole survival system. It's trying to protect you from feeling things it doesn't understand. Anyone in front of something they don't understand, there's a fear kicks in. It's normal. It's just normal.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's where we got to go. And regularly, daily, like hourly, okay, let me get back to my body. What's going on in here?
Do you feel like, I mean, I guess, how many people are actually in their body if you were to look at the standard American reality?
Do you remember once in the program we were working with the assembly point? I don't know if you were on that call.
Yeah.
So it's like this place that's supposed to be like kind of like the center of your energetic structure, right? And it's like you've got your silver cord comes out of there. But most people, this assembly point should be right in the back of your heart chakra. Right in the back of it, and then everything can emanate from there. Most people, it's like floating somewhere,
Mhm.
somewhere around there, somewhere over there. And even just character structures like schizoid character structures, which are defense structures, tend to be floating out of their body over there. Like, it's percentage of people that are fully embodied on Earth. I'm getting about 30%.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
And
not
is
that bad,
that,
actually.
yeah, is that like in that experience too, like would it be someone who like they've had the evolution journey where it's a degree of discovered. I guess the question is, or what I'm trying to get to is, in some sense, we're set up, at least in Western American culture, to disassociate to survive school. Is that kind of the correct assessment?
We dissociate from being in our body to survive school.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's well said. Yes,
yeah, yeah,
because it's unbearable as a
yeah,
child to be forced to just sit at a desk for 7 hours a day and
yes,
have shit poured into your mind. Like, but good examples, yeah. Like, but the most obvious ones are trauma. Trauma is excessively dissociative, and you you have the trapped memory in your mind of what happened, but it has zero emotional content. The energy of the trauma is not there. And then you've got the trauma somewhere in your body. And then you as a consciousness are just trying to like stay out of your body
Mhm.
so that you don't have to feel it. Right. Like, so we're kind of like, a lot of people are kind of floating around, like they're floating around, not fully grounded. And it's scary to come back in the body because not only is there trauma there, but there's that 3-year-old that you were like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And then you just kind of put it in a dungeon and it's been starving for 30 years and now it looks like a freaking monster. So then you're like, no way I'm going there. But meanwhile, if we actually do go there and hang out with it, eventually that monster kind of like sheds its layers and you just realize it's a 3-year-old you that's like, can you just love me, please? Like, and also, so yeah,
Yeah, and
this
I know a lot in regards to the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and how when you in are
Mhm.
having a trauma impacted, it does attach to you. And I guess the question is, until it's fully, I have this theory of until, well, as I've culminated, like until it's fully seen, fully loved, it's going to be continued on. Like you have to truly sit with it to fully see it and fully love
Absolutely.
it, accept it. And once it can be fully accepted, then it can be transcended. And as you resist it, it's what you resist persists. So if you resist it, it stays alive, and you demonize it and make it bad, and bad stays alive in your body. And so
Yes.
it is very hard to come up with the social emotional construct to deal with those crimes against humanity, to deal with the trauma against our body. And how do you rectify and make right these things that happen to us that do alter the course of us? And for some of us, people who have, as a newborn, as in the womb, or in
Trauma's
very
already
young
there.
age, yeah, the trauma of whatever's there as a child, as a infant, you're really set up to live a life where you're not in your body. And then we go out judging people who are not embodied, making them problems on the planet, when it's like they were never set up to even try to be successful. And just the way we point fingers and judge with no structure to restore people to their humanity, is where I
Mhm.
get really, really passionate.
Yeah, well, and with reason, with reason. So, like an important thing when we start going into like spiritual work is we start realizing like, I don't remember why, but there's a reason I incarnated in this time, in this family, da 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 da. And generally speaking, we have karmic proclivities, we have shit from other lives, and we have deep soul longings of what we want to come and heal here. And you can't, like, how are you going to come and heal something if you don't understand it from the inside out? If you haven't lived it and healed it and transcended it, that's when you can actually be a powerful source of teaching, even if it's just through your aura, even if it's just through your being. So like we have to like remember that that's part of the spiritual growth as you start remembering, oh, I'm not just a helpless victim of a fucked up world, like so that's super important. that doesn't mean that everything is okay that's going down here, because it's like we are in a fear band frequency and we have like people that are actively doing everything they can to keep us like that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Like the structures are in place to keep us like that. If you just interact human to human with people, everyone wants the same thing.
mhm,
No, it's because of our systems and our structures that the crudest animal instincts come out of people, because their
mhm,
survival brain's like, it's me or them,
mhm. Yeah.
like, so yeah. So like for me,
Isn't
it's
so
just like,
much, there isn't an us. There's definitely that survival brain is in there. And I really, really love how you said that too. There's deep soul longings. I've also found that I haven't dug into it just because I live from a very, people like to prove me wrong kind of experience with where I come from. The science around reincarnation and how it's actually been proven that reincarnation is a thing too scientifically, which is really cool, and how
yep,
energy can't be destroyed. And what's there is this deep soul longing, which really impacted me all the more, of like whatever's in my soul is ancestral, is like it is passed through time, whether you believe in reincarnation or if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. It's still this innate drive to bring about fifth dimensional living or whatever ultimate, I guess I probably don't even know what the ultimate is. It's the next stage, the next milepost we can see
it
is
is.
that. So we want to get there as quick as possible, and this deep longing and being able to understand it from the inside out. I just really love the way you said that. And that is something that I see myself getting stuck in this duality dichotomy. I don't know how you'd put it, of I know what I discovered now so deeply, intimately. I wouldn't change anything. And I still have to show up in a world where I tell my story, and the dualistic world is going to create bad and wrong. And I still do desire to have my life restored and leverage it in a way that makes it a wave and makes a difference on the planet. And so being able to dance in love and light, fifth dimension, while also dancing inside of legal systems and the third dimension of I want to make my story known so I can change the system, as I know my story will change the system. Dancing in that world with love and light people. And yeah, that whole world has it's been very, very confusing for me, just because it doesn't feel like I ever land with anyone who can actually hold the whole reality, if that translates.
Yeah, no, like but yeah, when you have one foot in one world and one foot in the other, it's tricky, right? Like, but what do I want to say? Something super important to realize, like, like like you have this thing going on where it's like you can be a little bit flary, and I love that about you. Like, I'm like, bring it, man. Like, because people need to be flared up, because you can only be triggered if you're loaded, right? So it's like, this is the reality. You show up and you decide to be fully you, unapologetically. I
Mm-hmm.
can't even say that word. It will trigger people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay, right? So like, it's like a part of like being able to lean in both worlds is understanding you're not responsible for how defense structures react.
Mm.
And that's the first ego. It's like, what do you mean I'm not responsible? They're going to ram into me. They're going to do this. They're going to that. No. Like, but at the end of the day, we're not responsible for people's defense structures.
Yeah.
You trigger people just by breathing and existing. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do? Stop breathing and existing? Oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to bother them. Like,
Yeah.
just, no, that's
Yeah.
what we need. What we need in this world is people that are willing to just stand in their light, stand in their story, and be like, yo, this is me. Like,
Yeah.
and if you don't like it, like, just bless you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
There's so much you can do. Actually, I had this someone confronted one of the people who were at my house. She's actually a spiritual person who was at my house, who literally watched the religious people take me. So there's a whole, she's never talked to me. She's like, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I don't have to be friends with Jenna. And it's like, how can you say this on the planet? It's just, either way, for me, I see it as a massive social and science experiment, and really seeing defense structures and seeing the ego, like it is a script that's running. And so I actually was sharing this with Aaron the other day. We met with someone, and I was like, I want to understand that person's psyche. And so like I just get to like go in and see what's there, as they are trapped in a lower density state.
absolutely,
And I don't
absolutely.
know how to get them out, and it's not quote unquote safe for them yet. And so I'm so passionate about intricately understanding that. And I will say now that I have someone actually discovered this week, really recounting my life. I was like counting every day. and really started over. It's like now I'm actually making progress on the thing that I feel like I went through the trauma for. Like we created our community, we started creating content. It's like I had what I did happen and I wanted to make a difference and change. And I tried so hard on my own and I couldn't do it alone. And now that we're doing this together, like I'm now so diffused, and we literally have slept 12 hours for 3 days in a row now. Like this is all this like fight to get here. It feels like it's over and now we're making progress. And so there's just a needing to feel effective at the mission that I haven't felt effective at. And so there is this screaming and,
Well,
and
trying to do it alone, is how you can definitely have a burnout. Because we
yeah. And
can't do
yeah,
it alone.
we can't. And there is a structure that's set in place that we're meant to believe that we can. Like I didn't even, like my thing too is like I didn't want to do it alone. I also didn't know how to do it with anyone. I couldn't find anyone. So there's this like this weird piece. And I will also say, coming from where I know, I can see the pattern coming together too, and the energy coming together too. So it's like, of course it would happen on this day at this time and this thing and that thing. And so I can see the pattern. And it's also frustrating because I want it to happen now. And so being able to dance in the release and the dance between pushing and the push and pull.
I know, and it's so funny. It's so funny. The whole like 3D is the space of the illusion of time, like,
Mhm.
so, we're kind of like, it's pressing. We gotta do it now. We gotta change the world now. And it's like, when we're finally like, when we're fully transitioned into 5D, it's like, that's just going to be so funny to look back on, like, oh yeah. Oh,
Remember
that
when
was
we
funny.
saw that? Yes.
It's funny. It's like when you think about a movie you watch, like, oh, remember that movie, like, Memento or something. It's
Yeah.
like all the frames going all over the place. So it's like we are in a process. That process is happening. That process cannot not be happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important thing to realize. That process is happening at like the planetary level. I'm not even talking about the humans. I'm talking about Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a process of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
She's ascending.
Mm-hmm.
Everything on her is either going to be like in pain because they're resisting the process, or they're going to be like a little bit in pain as they're like, as shit's coming up that needs to be cleared, and so that they can ascend. So super important to realize that it's happening whether or not individual people do something.
It's true.
Like just get that stress down, like, and then from there it's more like it's working from a place of deep inspiration. It's like, just how can I be in service today? How can I be in service to this process today?
I
And it's
really
not the mind can't answer that question.
Yeah, I really hear listening too of Gaia is doing it. So if we listen, we can be on that compared
And
to
how do we listen?
whatever this is. And I guess what's there is, and I don't know the science behind it or the mechanics or spiritual concepts around like that, which is the ego got created at the fall, and that's what we're ascending. So there's like a pocket of time where the ego rule and reigned. Is that a fair assessment?
So I want to say one thing about what you just said before I answer that question. So listen is what we do from the heart. You can't listen with your head to anything. Super important to understand this. Listening is with your entire being. Hearing is like noise in your head, and then your ego is deciding he's gonna like chew on this one and chew on that one and having opinions about this, blah 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 blah. So true listening is always heart-centered. It's always like you're in your body. All of you is receiving. So like listening to Earth, listening to Gaia, like it's it's like here.
And it's overwhelming.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like pure truth. It's like there's no let me chew on this for a second. Like there's none of that. It's just like boom.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna go hide in my head again.
Yeah. And I'm drowning. Okay, we're gonna learn how to float here. Yeah.
I'm drowning. Who's drowning? Right?
Yes. That ego.
Right?
Yes.
The ego's drowning because like the ego's like a bucket of water in an ocean.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, don't put me back in there, man. I'm gonna drown. Like it's like, well, it's so about the ego. That's we could have fun with that. But basically, there's so many traditions that talk about it, right? Like I really like the way Course in Miracles talks about it. Like I've always had a little penchant, a little like leaning into like I like that, So basically your ego is a fear-based thought that was allowed to grow way too much. And the way they talk about it in there, they say, a tiny mad idea that crept into the kingdom of heaven, and the child of God forgot to laugh.
A body chill.
That's how they define the ego. A tiny mad idea that God's child forgot to laugh at.
Wow. I have complete body chills as you say this too. Wow.
And
Yes.
that idea was like, well, what if we go play on our own and then dad's going to be angry at us? It's like that ridiculous. And it's like, how would dad be angry at you? He created you in his image. He wants you to go create things. You know? So it's just this mind, it's this fearful thought, and it has hijacked the mind. And literally your ego is in 1% of your mind. 99% of your mind is joyful and silent. 1%. And like, and that's all we hear, right? And we're like listening to it way too much.
Yeah,
we're
like I see a microphone and the volume like as loud as it can go. It's like, how can we drown out everything with this? Yes.
How can you drown out the entire silence of presence that's all around it? You know, that's deeper than it. That's so it's like when you start understanding that, it's like, you know, the ego is just the unruly mind. It's like a little dog that's been allowed to just have a whole bunch of shitty habits, and no one's kind of stepped in and said, hey, that's enough. Let me give you some guidance here.
I'm also seeing like a gymnasium of like hundreds of people, and there's like the drunk person who showed up last. So like, let's give him the mic and make him the one that we listen to all night. We're like, no. Like, this is not the person who just stumbled into the room, who has no idea what we're talking about. Like, just not give him the mic. And it is true that there's like, I just like concrete that mic to that ego. And that's what people live as their voice, that they live as that's who they are.
Well, because it talks so loud. It has a comment about everything. It has a judgment and a comment and an opinion about everything. It's like, my God, when do you just shut up, man? Like I love you. We kind of need our ego in a 3D body, you know, like you need to have like a little coat that's like, this is my personality and blah, blah, blah. Like the problem is that when it is run by frequencies under 200 in the Hawkins scales, it's animal instincts. Ego is functioning based on animal instincts. That's not good. That's like, you know, competition, just like, it's like everything's about me. There's me and there's that. And it's like, if you're calibrating under 200, you're kind of like, if I have water and I give it to you, I don't have water anymore. That's how thought happens under 200. But as soon as you start going up above it, the ego gets more and more benign, because you're kicking in gear more and more. You, the presence, you, the soul, you, the consciousness, in which that little 1% is like, you've kind of come back to realizing I'm all of this. And then it starts calming down. It doesn't really have a choice. If you are no longer listening to it with all your being, if you're no longer reacting to it when it's like blah, 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 it starts shutting up. It starts understanding the true alignment that should be between you and your soul, you and your soul and your ego. Is your soul is running the show, and the ego is there to listen and follow commands. And yeah. There's a yogi I worked with in Playa del Carmen. I just love her. She's so awesome. And the metaphor that she used in her vinyasa teacher training that I took with her was basically your ego. Her metaphor for the ego is like, your ego is the manager of this big hotel that you are, but it thinks it's the owner.
Okay.
It's a manager that believes it's the owner. And it's like, your job is to come back in line and be like, yo, I'm the owner here. You're the manager. You follow my guidelines. I tell you how I want you to manage it. And then it is. And then yes, you can manage it. So it's like, I want to eat healthy. And then you goes like, all right, let's figure it out. Let's go read some books about how to eat healthy. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's make some juices. And no. Let's structure like our time. That's what the ego is meant to be doing.
So ego is operating in the third density.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then the soul heart space is in the higher density. So it's like able to literally leverage and really see that gamify, I guess is how it's showing up, of the ego to make waves inside of the third density.
That's well said. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. We're existing in all these densities at the same time.
Mhm.
Like, let's get a little bit like psychedelic loopy over here. Like, we are existing in all these dimensions at the same time. It's parts of your consciousness that are experiencing
Mhm.
dimensions. So you're always able to talk to yourself
Yeah.
from a
And
higher
so I really
place.
see that world of alignment is when you're able to bring them more in that cohesion space where the different densities are, where ego is working with soul, which is working with the other densities.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, can you imagine having your survival system like at your service, tell me what we need to do? Because your survival system is the shit that can pick up a car to protect someone from your child from being hit by it, kind of thing, right? Like,
I've
imagine
tapped it,
that
dude.
working
It's
with you,
crazy. Yeah.
right? So to have our reptilian and limbic brains aligned with working with us, because there's no longer a conflict between how they're trying to keep your body safe and what your ego wants, which is like often completely, not aligned with that, and what your soul's trying to bring in, like, hey, like, it's time for
Mm.
care. And then your ego's
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I like that. And she goes to like, so it's like all this all this stuff's fighting together.
So what I
Imagine
just
when it
heard
can.
you say though was the concept of what your soul is trying to bring in. So is there something you'd say in regards to, because the understanding of soul being in the heart space and then soul, higher self, however you want to see that, bringing in what I put on this earth, is there anything you'd put there? The Barbie movie, I don't know if you've seen the Barbie movie yet or not. I feel like
I
that's a
haven't
good,
seen it yet.
okay. If you haven't seen it, I am completely amazed that exists on that exists to be able to show the world just that concept of higher self and what's there.
So your higher self is bigger than your soul. Your higher
Mm,
self is like the vast being that you are, that is completely aware and in tune of the essence that it's made of. So your
mm,
higher self, if you like, it's kind of like our brain can barely comprehend. Your higher self contains every single life you've ever had in every single form in every single universe. Back when you were like even evolving as a freaking planet or as a crystal or as an alien or as like some weird looking thing with 8 arms or thousands of human lifetimes. Your higher self contains all of that. Your higher self
mm,
is directly in relation to the divine essence that it comes from. There's no
mhm,
separation,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And then we don't have words to talk about this, but basically your soul is it's a patchwork, it's a repository of memories of things that you've experienced and learnings that things that you've learned, and it's all kind of like patchworked into this thing that's within the higher self. But then your soul here right now is like one piece of that patchwork, right? So, but the way you're able to talk with your higher self is by getting more and more centered in your heart, because the space in your heart is as vast as a universe as opposed to the box in your head.
mhm.
And
So,
there's a possibility of developing a direct connection with the higher self. It's like mirroring this relationship that mirrors down, from God to the higher self, from the higher self to the soul, from the soul, to the ego and the body. Like, it's just like just kind of like mirror it down one from one to the other. Like,
and we're almost living upside down then. We're letting the ego dictate God in a
absolutely,
way. Yeah.
absolutely, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, but that's another way to define the ego. The ego is a mental attempt to be our own father.
Hmm. Our mental attempt at being our own father is the ego. That's intense.
The ego tries to replace God. Like, it's like, I am my own father.
Mhm,
I made myself. I went
mhm,
and did these degrees. I did this and I did that. And rah, 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 whatever. Like, it's just, and it's like, what the ego doesn't have is the basic humility of, like, I was created by something else, like
mhm.
that deep acknowledgement and recognition. I come from something bigger than me.
Mhm.
And then
how do
once
I
you're
know
in that,
it's- yeah, how can I do anything if it isn't first from in response to what was created? So I'm really not the originator of that. And then yeah, that's where the brain can go in so many different directions, and just how do you keep coming back to the 0 point of what is now, what is today, how do we make a difference? And I find that, at least for myself too, I love my linguistics, I love talking about things for forever, and really at the space now that Aaron and I are at the space of getting results, like clear results. What do we do to really make traction? I guess the question would be, you've been in this world for a long time, what would you see is making the biggest wave, or what do you see even for 2024 of how to make the biggest impact when it comes to what we're up to?
once again, it just, the more we are embodying, it's all about the inner work. It's all about the inner work. Always. Like, because it's like, if we're like going out in the world and a good metaphor is like, you're looking in a mirror and the mirror is the world, and then you're like, oh, well, I would want that person in the mirror to smile. So like, I'm gonna try to force them to smile. It doesn't work. It's you being reflected. So like that understanding is super hard for the mind to understand. It's like, what do you mean the whole world is a projection coming out of me? Whoa, whoa, what the fuck are you saying? But it's the same for all of us, and that's what the quantum field is. But you doing the inner work inside of yourself, you creating, build it within, and they will come. What a beautiful way to say it. You got to build it in you, and they will come. So it's like you build that energetic structure of what that looks like that you want to bring into the world. You build it inside of yourself. And everything that gets flared up when you're like imagining, okay, I've got a following and there's like, I don't know, whatever, 1 million people. And then stuff starts happening. Oh, but then you're like, okay, good. Right on. Let's go. Let's go in the body. Where is that in my body? Where's that in my body? And that's where we go. And that's where we go hang out, and we bring love in there and we listen. And then the deeper we go, the more all these energies ever need is for us to fully go there. No low frequency can exist in you if you bring your high frequency in there. It just transmutes upwards. It has no choice.
It has to.
It has no
I
choice.
really see too, that was for me my embodiment 2021, 2022 of creating TikToks. If I would show up, it would trigger something, I'd go within, transmute it, work on my nervous system, show up again. It would shock me some big way, and just did that pattern so much. And really where I'm at now is I have been on the, it's not that I mean, I am showing up. It's just there's a degree of effectiveness that I'm not accomplishing. And so there is a degree of wanting to be effective, wanting to get results, wanting to go out. And what I'm seeing newly in what you're sharing is kind of the same reason why we go into relationships. It is this aspect to bring about awareness on what's on the inside. So what I'm seeing newly as we go to launch this community, it's like that's what's going to spark the inside, like the ability to have a biofeedback on a daily basis to say, okay, I am creating this is what I'm up to doing. And that thing's going to reflect back all the more of what I get to lean in and create and have that self-generative source of as I see it, because we're all doing it the same as it is 144 here, by the way. So that's just in the time on that as well. All that to say, yeah.
It's resonance, right? It's all about resonance.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's tricky for, I think, just for like, you're trying to reach, like your goal is to reach people that are still like on the path of trying to like wake up and understand how to deal with this. Like we're going towards what, like, for 5D businesses, like a lot of the work is simpler because all you're doing is emanating your 5D frequency, and people that are already there, they just naturally gravitate, like when we're trying to like help build a community to help people find their way to something, find their way to being able to just understand how to lean into what pulls them, right? That's like there's like a stronger beacon you need to send out. It's like over here, like, and like just kind of like help bring them in through frequency. It's still about frequency. Nope. I just double heard myself. It's still about frequency. There's like there's a little tweak in there of like whatever you're feeling in you, by you continually going into it and holding space for it and just like nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. Even like you're like, we want it to be effective. We want it to be effective. Even that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lean into that. Where is that in your body? And what happens if it's not? And like just facing and embracing all the stuff that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great way to do it. It's like, yeah, that's a
The
great.
acceptance that and that counterbalance, because it is so, I don't know if sneaky is the right word. It's this, we have a lot of energy to create something. And so it is new, at least for myself, it is new that I'm embodying this. And so having it refined and just the reflective, just how you reflect that back. Just thank you for
Finding
the
and refining.
exposure of that. Yeah.
And you can play that both sides. So you can be like, okay, you can just kind of go in your body and then be like, okay, so we launch and it's like super huge. Okay. And then feel what that does. And then we launch and there's just crickets.
Mhm.
And you feel where that is. Like it's like it has very specific locations in our body where we have that energy. And the way the universe is made is like whatever low frequencies are in you, they need to be transmuted. They need to be brought up in frequency.
Mm,
So the universe will tend to give you experiences that are like, there, look, there, right there, over and over again, right? And then unfortunately, we don't understand that the universe is trying to show you that's where you need to bring your energy. And
yeah.
instead, we start deciding that it's the universe showing us that whatever, we're not worthy of success or some some bullshit ego thing we're going to make up
Yeah.
about it. So just toggling and playing with that. Because for
Yeah.
me, as soon as I started thinking, okay, I have a successful practice, da 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 da, da, I've got tons of clients coming in, I discovered pretty quickly that it's like that gives me a lot of anxiety.
Mm,
Like it was like, I don't want tons of clients. I
mhm,
really want to work with 10 to 15 people a year, super deep. And I was
mhm,
like, oh, interesting. And then it's like, okay. And then, so imagine you have 15 clients. And I was like, ooh, even there, it's like, ooh, like there's some of them that they're going to drain me, And so the more I went into the process, that's all the shit. You got to clear that out of you.
mhm, mhm,
The
mhm.
highways to you require that there not be stuff in the way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And really, again, that resonance of what do you feel, yeah, what are you driven to? What is your desire? And leaning into that and just seeing the more resonance and what stands in the way and what gets created. Yeah, it is easy. And I think that's where I come with effectiveness. It's easy to get, for me to get lost in that. I will play with healing and shadow work all day, every day, because I love going in and I love creating. I love that. And the messiness of showing up and creating and just seeing what happens, and then having that reflection externally of myself after I create something. That's something that I continue to, what I see is this relationship with myself online to grow and build with my own quote unquote higher self or fifth dimensional self, however you see
Yeah,
it. And that's
and
something I'm passionate about.
what an interesting thing to consider. Like everything going on outside of you is all just your relationship with yourself.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, ooh, okay. But it gets fun when you start doing that. And also understanding whatever you're going through, it's what they're going through as well. Like a lot of them probably think they need to figure it all on their own and that the communities that they came from didn't support them, so they're not looking for community, right? So that's like all your path and your growth is what allows you to see like where they're at
Mhm.
and what they're looking for, because at the end of the day, like our ultimate our tribe our tribe is composed of people that are on the same frequency as us. Like they're going through the same thing as us, and
Mhm.
we're a couple steps forward or whatever, like, but they're the same family as us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can feel that in your, I want to say you can feel it in your soul. There's an undeniable nature of it that is undeniable. And how do we actually come together and be effective? That word just keeps coming through, effective.
Yeah.
And I guess what's there is, I don't want to say it. Yeah, it's really easy to be deceived online and think that's where effective comes through, is just
Mm,
being weary of putting energy out, and then it just like, "Mwah." It's like, no, I really want to create something that is lasting, that does have
mhm.
that does have something that I want to say is eternal, in a sense that I can continue to put my energy in, that is growing, that I see I've put energy into all these different spaces, and it's been with people who haven't been embodied. And so I put all this energy in thinking that they're embodied too. And then it's like, whoop, nope, that person wasn't. They had the illusion on the internet. And so being able to actually be embodied and creating from an embodied space and continue to build on my own embodiment. Yeah, just so much there I'll be leaning into, because I don't
And
feel
this
like
is the journey.
yeah.
The journey you're on, right? Like even like, you know, like considering like, oh, that person wasn't really like this, da, da, da. That's part of the journey too. It's kind of like, ooh, and you're just gonna get better and better. Your
Yeah.
what I like to call your spiritual bullshit meter is just gonna get more and more fine tuned. And it's like, it's like the stuff needs to be grounded, you know, the knowledge needs to be grounded.
Yes.
There's so many people today that are just like channeling left, right, and center. And I'm like, what are you channeling? No, how are you sure what you're channeling? And then on the
And
other side, we
what
got
are
people that
we
are just
doing?
too like intellectual, and it's like, okay, but you're missing
Yeah.
something too. Like,
Yeah, what are we doing? I guess is what shows up. I thought was a question I actually had today. It was like, what are we doing? And being able to come back to that grounding question of what's my body doing? What am I doing? And yeah, what am I doing?
and that's great because the mind has a you know, a passive aggressive list of 6,000 million things that need to be done, or else you're a piece of shit kind of thing, you know, like, and to be effective is to realize that there's probably 3 things on that list only that need to be done.
Yeah.
That's that's a good way to look at it, effective. And there's a
Yeah.
huge difference between being efficient and being effective. Efficient means you get a whole bunch of shit done, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And effective means you can get just one thing done, but it's huge, right? Like, so to me, being effective always comes back to like, this thing is all full of, and we just bring the gravity point down into our chest. For some people, even lower. Some people need to like just bring it all the way into their feet. Like one of my PhD professors was like, I need to bring your consciousness into your toes. Cause it's like you do macro sociology, you're so up there, like it's like no one understands what you're writing other than like the 3 people specialized in that same kind of macro sociology. Like I'm like, well, that's fine. I don't care. Like that. She's like, no, you know, no, like you want to be boots on the ground, you know. And she was the anthropologist, of course. Like it's like boots on the ground. So we come back in the body. Like really, it's important to understand you can't go deep into your heart and start understanding how to listen to your soul with all your being if you're not fully in your body. It's like the condition.
I feel that. Is there anything you've come to across that would be like, okay, this is a test of me, I'm in my body or I'm not in my body?
Oh my God. If my mind's like, I'm not in my body.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
No. Like if it's racing in there, I want to make a little exception to that. Like when you really tap into gamma rays, but you know, you can tell the difference right away. It's such a different state. Like when you're fully in your body, and then the woo, like the energy starts vibrating faster and faster. The mind, the intellect, the emotion, the physical sensations, everything's flowing together as one. That's a gamma state, and that's awesome. Like whoever taps into that, it might scare them at first, but it's such an elevated state of awareness. And finally, you're using emotional juice the way it's meant to be used, not to constrict you and contract you, but to can blow you open, right? Like, but if you stop doing whatever you're doing and you notice, okay, my mind's like da 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 da, and my body feels trapped and constricted, that's pretty much your cue that you're like, you're in that box.
Yeah, I feel
You're in the
that.
box.
And you're in the box. I like that. And what's there too is for me, I've had this happen. I'm gaining my practice in it of when I am able to grab the awareness and then stop. It's like I need to stop long enough to get everything to just still. And then it's like I'm receiving what I need to be doing. Like it's a reception that I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing until I can get quiet enough to be told. And then when I'm told, listening to my body, it's a whole different reality. And what I'm able to accomplish is effective and efficient in a way that's sometimes too where that comes up. It's like, what I accomplish when I'm in my body is a result that I cannot even, like, nothing compares. And so when I am all disoriented and just got through 3 days of a cold where I was like, I could not think or receive, or just, I was very much just not in my normal state. The effectiveness wasn't there, and it is hard to, that's where it's like, be kind, just rest and allow your body to rest. It's just what I can accomplish when I'm in, I call my, I don't know if you've seen the movie
Which
Baby
is
Driver, that's where I'm at.
which is the most effective thing you can do in that moment,
Yeah.
is to allow your body to rest and rebuild itself, right? Like,
Yeah. The results are just, I guess what's there is like when you do see just the taste of what happens when you're in your body, it's like you don't want to do anything else, and then you lose it, and then you go away, and then you come back, and there's just the joy, the frequency, the expansion. It's wild that we forget how good it is, or how good it could be.
yeah, well, it's just because, like we still have we're still in a world where the egoic structure is really strong. Like, it's strong. It's not just strong in us, it's strong in the collective, right? Like, and your ego is, as a fear-based thought, it is more than aware that there's something much, much bigger inside of you than it. It might not understand what it is, like, but it knows that it's like, yo, if I let that thing take over, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, your reign is done, then you'll actually be in service, and it doesn't know it yet, but that would actually be a way cooler and calmer and more relaxed place for it to be, because then it can be way more effective than if it's trying to run the whole show. Like, it's trying to be the owner of the hotel, but it's really just meant to be the manager. Like, but that's the key. Like, you come back to your body, and you need to stay in there long enough. Because that's the thing. Like, we're kind of like, hey, let me come back in my body. All right, let's go. No. It's like, no. No. To come back in it is to feel what's going on in it and be like, oh, so I got a little something going on in my plexus right now. It's really not comfortable. And then people's reaction to that is like, well, let me go do something else. Let me eat something. And it's like, no, let's go in there. And it's kind of like an ADHD, like, I don't do it. And you're the consciousness, you're the field. And that's your job, to constantly bringing yourself back to remembering that, and sitting down, even if it's just like 3 minutes once an hour, sit down. Where am I at right now? And it's like, okay, a lot of stuff moving around here. Like, okay, just coming down. Okay, this area is like, it's a little bit like and lower. Just kind of scanning the system, like, and then like, okay, let me just come hang out here in the heart space and breathe from here. It's so easy, like, you just imagine you got little nostrils in front of your heart or something, like, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to inhale and exhale from here for a while and just see what comes up. Because your mind doesn't know this yet, but it will eventually know it. The best medicine for your mind is silence. When your mind can rest, unless it's being solicited directly for, hey, this thing, here, think about this for a while. Unless it's being directly solicited, it should be resting. And when it tastes that, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is way better. And it eventually comes in line. It eventually starts asking you for meditation. Like, you get to the place where you start like, I'm spinning too much. I need to stop. Like even your mind's like, mommy, help me. Like.
It is, once you find, what I see is, once I find that through line, when you find the path, when there is a singularity, a clarity to follow a path, and you learn that path, it does become chaotic and just panicky, and you can feel that it's like, there's so much, I've got to get everything out and get back to zero, get back to that path. As it is, it's just nothing better in my personal opinion, and it's taken a long time to get there.
Yeah, and it's the most effective path.
Yeah. And for me, it's, again, through human design, strategy, authority, leaning into there, being able to know what I'm supposed to respond to, and following the path of spirit, which I just am excited that that's soon to be normalized. I believe soon to be normalized. I guess it's outside of space and time, so I don't, soon is a relative term.
I know. But in this part of the game, it's kind of the idea. Like, there's the past and the future, and yeah, I'm a 6-2.
It is happening. and you're someone who is helping it happen. And I just appreciate that. I did see if something, is it January 9th, a summit that's coming up that people could participate in. I can link down below if that's coming up.
Yeah, that's right. It's in the quantum conversation. They have like a little soul shine thing. And January 10th is when the mentorship program starts up again for the new year, with the big activating our pillars of light and really getting all the systems in us aligned, our value system, our feminine and masculine energies, all that aligned and harmonious, so we can really be pillars that are anchoring in these higher frequencies. Because the more of us do it, that it's just gonna, at a certain point, it just spreads. It's like a virus. It's like a good virus,
Yes,
like spread that consciousness, and it just makes the entrainment. You can't stop the entrainment. Higher frequency comes into lower frequency. The lower frequency gets entrained upwards. It can't not do it. So either that frequency is like, I don't want it, and it leaves, which is a lot of things will leave this earth, or it just comes up. So your desire to, build community and all that's all about creating a really big pillar, a really
Yes.
big one.
Yeah. I feel that powerfully. I do. There's a ego part of me that wants to diminish how big a pillar I really truly believe I am in, just the world of Aaron, just what he holds, and just us coming together. It is overwhelming to see what's possible. And question there, I guess, would be, is for someone listening, how do they know if they're a pillar of light? That would be like, if they know this is them, how do they know it's them?
Well, I think there's a calling, and then, like, this is what ego does. Ego's like, well, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am to be, like, like, what, I'm going to be like this big pillar, and then like, if you have shit like that in your head, that's pretty much how you know that, yes, you are meant to be one. And that's ego resisting. Because the ego loves that little game of grandiosity, like, and your soul knows its grandeur. Your soul knows what it is. And it is huge. It is a being of light, and it can change the world.
Yes.
So, like, there's like this weird, like, what I would answer to that is, like, anyone that even listens to conversations like this, they're on the path. They're trying to wake up, like, and waking up is how we remember that we are pillars. But we want straight pillars, right? We don't want pillars leaning on another pillar. You see what that does, right? One pillar, boom, 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 like domino things. Like, we want that are standing in their light fully and completely. And in order to get there, that's you need to do the work. You need to do the work, like, and you're doing it, and I'm doing it, and many others are doing it. Like, I'm happy as well to offer to your audience, if they want to have, like, an experience of what it's like to work with me, because you have a good idea. It's just, I don't go woo-woo with anyone unless they're there, unless they're ready, unless they're like, you're ready to go in your fifth field, and we go into your soul landscape, and we go and extract entities, whatever. Yeah, right on. But that's all done from a solid base. And the solid base is the ability to feel what's going on in our body. We got the mind, we drop into the body, we go work with the energies, we open up the heart, we learn to listen, we learn the power of presence, of just going there, and stuff transmutes in real time. And then you start understanding, like, whoa, I'm hiding up here because I'm afraid of what's down there. But what's in here is actually everything you need in order to have a powerful life, and in order for your mind to finally go, like, oh, okay, let me align with the system instead of fighting it. Like,
I am loving the fact that the sun is trying to take over the show, by the way. It's so good. It's like completely, like, you're not even here anymore. The sun's like, nope, I'm taking center stage.
I'm talking with my eyes closed, so I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's so good. And I really hear that that's what's missing inside of spiritual spaces, is no one has their own embodiment. They're discovering these skills, tools, whatever we want to say, in the spiritual world, and then just puking them out on people, not having like, if we have the foundation, then we don't have to do collateral damage later. We have a foundation that we're having this come in on. And so there's a lot of discernment that is needed. And I appreciate your reflection of not needing to push people when we don't have that foundational stuff. And I just, I don't see for myself many that are really leaning into the foundational aspects of getting in the body and valuing the spiritual is so sexy for people to talk about. And how do we gamify, make the body something we want to play with. So yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. So I'm happy to offer, like normally like I take on clients like for, chunks of 3 to 6 to 1 year, but I'm happy to offer like just like 1 hour sessions of just body mind integration. Body
Yes, take her up on that.
integration.
Take her up on that, and just I'm gonna put the link down below. And I remember that's I met you in through the Kyle C's community and just had that first call. And
Yeah.
just it was
I
life changing.
really am being taken over by the light.
You really, you're not even there anymore. It's just the sun. There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Let there be light.
Let there be light. I love you so big. I'm so excited
Oh,
for
me too.
2024 and what gets created. And just thank you for being in my corner in all the ways and all the things. And just who you are on the planet is changing the world. And I see it firsthand. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Jenna. I love you.
Love you too, CCFA.
Bye.